Hello! In this video, I'll introduce you to the Terrain Explorer's Project Manager. It will be better if you follow along with me, so if the Explorer isn't already running, pause the video and start it now. When you start the program, the Project Manager is the first window that you see. It is the central hub, and it's where you import and manage seismic, create formations and lithologies, and open seismic display windows. This will be a brief overview because a lot of its functionality, such as creating new projects and importing seismic lines and versions, is not available while you're in this training mode. Other features such as managing versions and attributes, and creating formations and lithologies, which you might use during training, I will deal with further on in the course. All I want to do in this video is give you an overview of what the various panels are and what you might use them for. The project that I will use is the Laurentian Basin project, which I have open here. Laurentian Basin is one of our educational projects, and you'll get more out of the video if you have it open in front of you. So, if you haven't downloaded and installed it yet, you might want to pause the video, again, go to its webpage, which you get to from here, and download it from there. When you open the project, you will see a layout something like this. That said, it may not be exactly like this because the project manager is highly configurable. All the panels that you see here are collapsible, and you can float them, resize them, and drag them to other locations. This is good because it lets you set up the view the way that works best for you. The layout is stored when you close a project, so the next time you open it, it will look exactly the same way it was when you closed it. As a result, the way the project looks to you when you open it may be different than the way it looks in this video. So with that behind us, let's go through the windows one by one, starting with this one on the extreme left. This is the 2D seismic window, and it shows you all the 2D lines in the project. If there were 3Ds in the project, they would show up here. As you can see, you can organize the seismic into collections. This is useful, especially with larger projects, because it lets you classify lines according to their location, vintage, importance, or any other categorization you might want. In this way, you can manipulate them as a group, turning them on and off the map to make the map easier to read. You move lines between collections by selecting them, right-clicking on them, and moving them to the collection you want. Here, I will move the line back. You might want to pause the video now and try that for yourself. Expanding one of the seismic lines, you see three subgroupings. The first is called versions, which shows, obviously, the versions you've imported into that line. The second is called 2D scenes, or in the case of a 3D survey, you'll have three of these, one each for inline, crossline, and time slice scenes. I'll show you what the scenes are later in the video. Finally, you have features which, to be honest, is not particularly useful at the moment. I would ignore it because there is more programming to come. You can expand or collapse all the subgroups in a collection by right-clicking on the collection and selecting first, Expand All, and then second, Collapse All. This is particularly useful for collections with many lines. The elements of the subgroups are linked to other windows. The elements of the versions subgroup is linked to the 2D Properties window, which you see here, bottom right. If you click on a specific version, its properties appear in the window. The properties include trace header values, the real header, the various line properties, and finally various settings describing the version itself. We will talk more about these as we go along. The scene subgroups are interesting. Click on one of the elements. Notice that an image shows up in this previously empty window over here. This is not a display window, although I sometimes make the mistake of confusing it as one. Rather, it shows you what I call a saved scene. Saved scenes are an integral and important feature of the Explorer. Because an Explorer display is much more sophisticated than your normal seismic display, it has many more properties and options. Saved scenes let you save all the properties and then restore them all at the same time. Of all the features of the Explorer, this is the one you will use most often. This window shows you what the scene will look like when you restore it, which you will do by clicking on the Show Scene button here. Pause the video and restore some of them now. This window is obviously the base map. It's based on Esri's ArcGIS and it shows you all the lines in the project. The currently selected line will show up in yellow, and you can select lines by clicking on them with the mouse. Thus. The final panel won't come into play until we get down to the Stratascape displays at the end of the course. What it shows is essentially a stratigraphic column. These are the formations and lithologies that you will use to classify your seismic in a Stratascape display, like this. All the formations are sorted by chronological age from top to bottom. You can see the interval properties by expanding like this. So that, very briefly, is the project manager. We will get more into detail as we move along, but for now, that should be enough to get you started.